I think we'll just give it a minute or two for any late arrivers.
Yeah.
For anyone who's just joining us, we'll be starting in a minute or two. What do you reckon, Jim? Should we give them till 1:02?
Well, I've been known to come into meetings 3 or 4 minutes late, but don't.
Maybe one more. I don't know. I know how many people were subscribed, so let's try to be around that number, and then we can.
Sounds good.
Maybe 1 minute more.
Are we looking, Andres? I don't have the numbers up.
They're getting close to what I mean, to the subscribed ones. So let's give it a minute more.
Okay. No worries.
Like we're preparing to land the astronauts and we're waiting for that door to open. We need to talk real quietly and yes. Nah, this is fun. I know people are online waiting. We'll get started momentarily, I'm sure.
It's 1 o'clock Eastern, so a few people will be grabbing the lunch and yeah.
Mhm.
I guess we're close to the number.
Okay, let's get rolling. Welcome everyone to this webinar on how to prefab a fab. Have you tried time travel? A curious title, but I promise it will become clearer as we go through the presentation. So just at the top, just wanted to do a little housekeeping before we get rolling. There will be a 5 or 10 minute Q&A session at the end, but please feel free to drop your questions in the Q&A section as we go, because I know you can't always remember them right until the end. And then once we get to the end of the presentation, we'll make sure we'll try and answer as many of them as we can. And also, I just wanted to say thank you for taking the time to come and attend this webinar. We appreciate you're all very busy, and we hope that you find it both useful and entertaining. So here's a quick overview of what we'll be covering today. A little bit about who we are, a little bit about the project itself, how we planned it, what actually happened, because we all know plans don't always work out, when we changed the plan, where we're at now, and then we can get to the questions as well. So just in case anybody's unfamiliar with ENG, we are a BIM company. We've been providing MEP contractors with BIM VDC services for 17 years now. We've completed over 6,000 projects for more than 1,000 happy clients. Right now, there's over 500 of us, but we're still definitely growing a lot, and we're looking at potentially being over 700 by the end of this year. Some quick introductions of your speakers today. I'll start with myself. Hi, my name's Ant Mulheron. I'm the head of electrical VDC for ENG. I've been in the AEC and EPC industries for over 25 years now. I started back in AutoCAD Release 14 in 1998 to date myself a little bit. And with me is Andres Leon. Andres, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. So my name is Andres. I'm a BIM engineer. I've been working with ENG for give or take 3 years. And that's the same amount I've been working on this project. Yes, this project is still ongoing. We haven't wrapped it up so far. We're just about to, hopefully. That's me, yeah.
How about
Go
yourself,
ahead.
Jim?
Yeah, and good morning. My name is Jim Todd, and I am typically a field superintendent, 40 years experience, a little gray hair to show that. I'm actually a fourth generation electrician. So I'm working currently in the VDC department, and I was on this project playing a role, which we'll talk about a little later on that communication side from the field into our team. But I'm happy to be a part to participate in this reenactment of what we did in time.
And we're very glad to have you, Jim. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what we're going to be talking about. So prefabrication of a multi-million square foot project, 1,300 miles away, before there's a field team or a prefab shop. Quite the endeavor. And we're going to get into how we address those challenges with pre-construction planning and design for change strategies, and then get into how we bridge the gaps across both distance and time with some field leadership workflows, communication, digital innovation. We approached it from a lot of different angles, so it's going to be an interesting one. This. So I'm aware that some of you might be unfamiliar with the term fab if you've not worked in the semiconductor industry. So fabs are a common abbreviation for a semiconductor fabrication plant. It's essentially where they make computer chips. And these are, I kid you not, the most complex manufacturing facilities in the world. It's really hard to overstate the scale of these things. They're multi-billion dollar, multi-year construction projects, 5 different levels. Each level is so different. You could consider each level its own project. Each one's 600,000 square feet. Yeah, it's intense. I would like to say more, but unfortunately, as you can imagine, working with these clients, a lot of the work is under NDA. So what I can tell you is that the project was in Arizona, and it's 2 fabrication facilities in the same building. The project started back in 2021, and we started the project well in advance. The pre-construction period was 6 months. So 6 months before we were planning on having anybody on site working on the project, we were putting together the plan for prefabrication, hence time travel.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you're working with these kinds of high-tech clients, they're always looking to advance technologically. They're trying to push the envelope, and they really want to work with partners who not only understand those tools, but can function in a very complex project environment at a high level. So they're looking to partner with organizations that have that digital technology piece in place. So I won't list all of the softwares that we've got up on the screen there, but if you go back to 2021, being able to function in all of these tools at the same time, executing on a project was quite a big ask. And in order to be able to do that, partnering with trades who can execute in these environments, and also third parties providing BIM VDC services that also have that level of sophistication is really important. And I think partnering with organizations like ENG was definitely necessary for this particular project. Andreas, do you want to tell us a little bit more about ENG's approach on the digital technology side?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we as ENG, we have these tools and we have many more tools. Let's see what we got. So we have, for example, Recap Plus, we have Dynamo, we have Evo. It's not just this project. We have this as a standard. We have over 500 VDC experts who use this on a day-to-day basis. And we're not just these tools, as I just told you, but we're always looking for the opportunity to take stuff to a next level, to go further away. We keep receiving feedback from the team to see what they're struggling with, what actions they're doing the most. And we have an internal 25 people innovation team who they're there just to create add-ins for us, just to create tools, just to develop scripts, develop dynamos, and they help us just to make our day-to-day tasks easier, faster, cheaper, better. We need this kind of stuff to keep up with these projects that have challenges on the tech side, because these things are huge. You'll be able to innovate somehow for sure.
Absolutely. So the experience is there as far as working on these kind of projects, and the partnership with the digital solution side is there. But we knew we really needed some serious field superintendent level prefabrication planning firepower to really be able to understand this. And thankfully, Mr. Jim Todd was available.
Yeah, and you know, like I mentioned at the beginning, my 40 years experience in the field, I've built a few large facilities. So one thing you know, particularly I hadn't done it remotely. You know, leading a team remotely and being a part of a team remotely was a little I knew was going to be challenging as far as the deliverables. But I knew we needed a plan of how we were going to produce that, and collectively, and we came up with what we ended up calling kind of like an IKEA-like prefab packages, work packages that we would put together, and we could get the design complete and work in particular areas, you know, through the flow of the project that would be easy to understand. Capture all the install particulars of that, maybe that particular area, broken into areas. So that's kind of how we got started, breaking it up into packages.
So yeah, the idea was there. We were gonna deliver the whole fab just on pages just like this one, who would describe each single package that we should install just as IKEA kits on the field, and then there we were. As ENG, we react as a BIM muscle. We had to materialize Jim's idea. So we had to start setting up views, filters, tags. This project is a really complex one. This project goes down to nuts and bolts, the level of detail. And this one, trust me, you don't see it every day. So we had to set up something that was clear, that you were able to see it, to understand it. And last but not least, most important, people were going to be ordering from these sheets. So we had to be really clear. The bounds needed to be really accurate. We would be printing thousands of these guys, so we needed to set up everything from the beginning, so it will be easier, faster for the future, for the field, and for the VDC team to do it. But it wasn't just about the sheets. This was just a part of our plan. Jim came up with a great strategy to make this thing real. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about this one, Jim?
Well, sure. One of the approaches that I've used in the past, and it flows with a lot of the general contractor, you get a core and shell of a building, and I call what we call top-down construction. So, you know, inside a building, there was space. I knew early on would be, you know, we'd have that space available to us before, you know, more of the detailed stuff down below. So as we started our design, let's do a top-down construction approach, kind of broke into three parts. We had the high and tight, which was that solid content that we could claim space early in our design and in our deliverables, and then off ramps, so leaving that area, so visualize maybe hundreds of conduits, so not just a couple, but just a main area, high and tight, off ramps, and then in devices, which would be detailed and modeled and then built into kits, like cameras, maybe WAPs, or even hitting pieces of equipment. So broken into those three parts, we began to make that Revit content with that in mind, and replicating that to make it as similar, or I can use the word common, or build families that we could drop and paste, so that everyone is building the same, that we can repetitively do this, because that prefab was going to be needed, and so those kits needed to be consistent. We need a prefab. You want to do something more than one time. You want to repeat it. So that detail book, although like Andres mentions, was hundreds and hundreds, I could almost say probably over 1,000 pages of the details.
1,000 pages, yeah.
Yeah, believe it or not, those details were repetitive in a lot of places, and as evolved. So it worked well. We were successful with that, being ahead of it, and then looking back, it worked. Yeah.
Absolutely. And one of the things I really liked about that whole detail book concept was how it could be prefabbed or stick built. The deliverables were created in a way where you could use them either. And that was very much intentional on our part, because let's face it, ideal world, prefab goes in with a bow on it and there's no hitches, but that's not really how construction normally works, especially on these hyperscale projects. So what we wanted to do was to make sure that we didn't create any bottlenecks in the workflow and give the field the maximum opportunity to pivot if they needed to. So let's say the plan was, yep, we were going to prefab, everything was looking good. They needed last minute to just stick build it. They didn't need any different deliverables, right? They didn't need to come back to us for additional sheets. The whole package could go either way at any time. And that was a concept that we like to cover that with is design for change. That's how we like to describe it, is you don't know exactly what's going to change, but you know something's going to change. So
It
may as well
was going to
design.
change.
It's going to change. It's going to change. So
Yeah.
if you can design for that when you're planning up front, it definitely gives you maximum flexibility down the line. So the rules of engagement for field communication. This is obviously tongue-in-cheek image-wise, but it does, for me, capture the, if you're not careful with how you set up the relationships, you can easily get into finger pointing. It becomes a blame game. And especially so when you're talking about long distances, both physically and chronologically, because the people who are installing it weren't the people who planned it. So there's a lot of trust there. You need a lot of really good communication. And Jim, tell us a little bit about how you approach that kind of field communication piece.
Sure. Historically, in construction is we use the term stick build, which would mean you look at a set of drawings and as mechanical and electrical, you just go build it. But because we're dealing with prefab and the need and the requirement, the necessity to prefab, we couldn't allow the craftsmen and the electricians to go rogue or do their own thing and send us as-built of hey what we did. So it's kind of delicate a conversation with some of our skilled field people. We've gotten better over the years, and a lot of that buy-in is when we give them a deliverable that's simple to understand and read and say, okay, I get it, rather than giving it vague and giving them the ability to go off and try to fix something we've not given them instructions on. That is, we lose control, not control from like we're telling them exactly what to do, but we're providing them something that is going to come 2 weeks later or a month later the same way, and you didn't build it that way. Nice to have known. We had that anyway. So to get over that hump, we had similar to this webinar, this virtual ability to get daily that virtual phone call. We would pull up we used another format, but we use a video format where I could share the model. The field guys could feel like they could ask the right questions of a particular area. We had modelers that were on the call as well that were listening and could have input of of something coming in the future that we could talk about. So getting the construction workers to be more of installers and buying into that, and rather than construction, as builders or stick build. Remember, I think we mentioned a minute ago, but like 2 million square foot fab that we weren't building with Navis. We weren't building. The field doesn't have Revit. They had literally PDF 11 by 17 drawings that all the content at the end of the day needed to be on, and both from the installers and from our prefab side of things. So all the measurements, all the content to prefab was something that needed to be continually QA'd. They use it for bill of materials, for purchasing, or for quantifying materials that was going on the site for that particular area. So getting the field to see that, I had the ability, and because I've done this so many years, the questions that some guys don't ask are the questions they really need answers to. So again, having that conversation and being transparent and showing them hands-on helped. So that daily meeting, I can drag on and on in this conversation. But we used PDF, we used sessions where they could actually mark what they installed so I could see it, and we can have that knowledge of, oh, they did get that area done. They are complete over there, or oh, we highlight in red, hey guys, we have a modeling conflict here. We're not giving you that information, or you're gonna have to stick build that particular area because there was a conflict there and we need you to get ahead of it. Maybe there was some variation that we couldn't resolve. So that visible conversation was key to keep their buy-in, but yet balance that they were getting receivables that they needed to install. So hope that explained it.
No, absolutely. That was a really good summary. And it's a complicated dynamic that you're trying to explain because you know that the field didn't have time to do the traditional process of, okay, I'm receiving this project now. I'm going to start scrubbing the contract drawings and detailing. Like that was all done 6 months ago.
Yeah.
This is go time. There's an aggressive schedule. Particularly on this project, and you did a really great job of communicating that look, all of the usual decision making is just not going to be happening on this job. We've just got to go, and that was really valuable, and you did a great job of getting that buy-in for sure.
Yeah, thanks.
So
all right, so go ahead then.
Oh, sorry, go on. No, yeah.
So let me just tell you a little bit about the story, how we actually did prefab this. So I'm gonna break down the story in two parts. We didn't just have one fab, so it wasn't just 2 million square feet that we had to prefab, but it was two of them. Whenever we receive the first fab is gonna be the first moment, and whenever we receive the second fab, because that's when the game changed. So we received the first fab, and we arrived at the project at a very, very, very early stage. We arrived even before drawings were released, so we didn't even know where our stuff was gonna be. We didn't know where our cameras were gonna be, our WAPs were gonna be, where our phones were gonna be, and we had to go out and propose ideas, which let us understand how this thing was gonna behave. This thing is huge, you cannot imagine. So we were investing some time, and it's an investment because it paid off on the future. We just didn't know it was an investing. We were just reworking. We invested some time understanding the different areas, the tie schedule. This thing is crazy. You're working here, and then they tell you need to deliver this other zone that you hadn't even started on 2 weeks. So we were investing time, learning what works better, where, how, why, when, and why. It wasn't just us, but we had to share our space with, I don't know, maybe plus 40 plus trades. So people were arriving late. We had to rework. If you were there, if anybody was going to show up and they were going to clean up the space. So we were reworking, but we were reworking with a purpose. This is how I'm going to frame the first chapter: rework with a purpose. Investment. And I'm going to summarize why at the end. But we were on the prefabbing path, even though we weren't even doing it on purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's easy to overlook at this point that we were inventing this as we went along. It was a new strategy and it worked well, but it also generated a lot of work, as most new strategies do. Right? There's unforeseen issues. And I really like the phrase rework with a purpose, because we knew that all of the rework that was happening on the first fab was going to allow us to gain ground on the second for sure. So fast forward a year and we're starting the second fab while the first fab is still well underway. So trying to juggle both of those was a huge challenge, having both at the same time. What was that like?
Yeah, so this is what we call this webinar. Have you tried time travel? We hadn't even finished the first one. We were like 65, 70% the way, and we had to start already another beast, just as big, just as complex, I guess tighter on schedule. So you had to time travel. I mean, you had to bring lessons learned from something you hadn't even finished before to something you were just about to get started with. So we sat down and we said, like, okay, we've been here for a year. We have installed over 1,500 devices throughout 5 different levels. All of them behave like different projects. We're just about to build that twin of what we were doing last year. So what can I bring from the first one? How past limitations will behave in this one? How can I change the game? So we came up with a few bullets to do stuff different. First of all, we broke communication bottlenecks. Before, on the first fab, we were directing stuff through just one lead. So imagine 5 different projects and just one lead communicating to the field. This was getting this guy swamped. Some questions were just not delivered. Some answers were not delivered. So we ended up setting daily meetings with both GF and superintendents with our VDC team. With supers, we were figuring out with superintendents, we were figuring out what was going to be the next zone we were going to be tackling, which deliverable was better than this other one, and just figure out where to direct our manpower. And then with GFs, with the general foremans of each level, we were figuring out if this area was accessible, if this was installed or not, if this support was working good, maybe it's too long, maybe the hardware we're using is too expensive, maybe it's different, I don't know, whatever. Not just that, we had to ramp up because, I mean, the workload, you guys cannot imagine. I think I will never find a project as huge as this one on my life. We ramped up from 7 people to 40. And you cannot imagine the complex environment this thing has: links, acronyms, means and methods, different projects. And then E&G behaves as a VDC department of your company. So we have the flexibility, we have the people, we have the numbers, and we ramp up really easy. And then we can ramp down also really, really easy, but most important, without slowing production. Onboarding cannot slow production, otherwise it will not make sense. Those 2 bullets. Third one was, we team up with our innovation team. We have an army of 25 coders, of 25 people that are ready to code anything you want. We code them, and they helped us to develop complex Revit content that we're gonna be slightly modified. So we were gonna be standardizing while still keeping some constraints to be suitable for prefabrication on hundreds. So we needed to understand it's never going to be 100 standard, and we needed some flexibility. Which flexibility we had just learned on the first fab, because we spent a year just reworking and screwing things up. So we brought those lessons learned, we created families, and we were able to standardize a lot. And then last, most important one, we had to team up with the field. If the VDC team and the field is going different ways, this doesn't make sense. They would just forget what you sent and do whatever. So we raised some questions. Is what I'm prefabbing suitable for prefabrication? Is this too big? How are you going to ship this? Can you steer this on the field? Am I being more effective with this, or you're just gonna break this down on little sticks and install it separately on the field?
Yeah,
and that's the struggle is real on that point for sure, because I feel free to drop in the Q&A if anybody on this has experienced the same problem where 6 months after a project's finished, you learn retroactively that the field took what was prefabricated, broke it down, and stick built from it. Because we've seen that on projects. It's brutal, it's very costly for time and money purposes, and yeah, this definitely a big concern. So Andres being really on that as far as those conversations, making sure that the prefab really is the investment that they were looking for. It's very valuable.
And there you go. You took the words out of my mouth. So prefab investment needs to pay off for the field. Otherwise, it won't make sense. So here's where our motto, BIM's motto, BIM built for the field. And I will add, it brings value to the field if it's done with them. Like if you work with them, it's gonna pay off at the end of the day. Otherwise, it won't. So here's some metrics on the screen on what we actually, I mean, solid stuff on how we actually prefab this thing. So I showed you the IKEA kit a few minutes ago. Each page is gonna mean one type of device. So one type of camera, each one of them is gonna have one sheet. We had 993, it's the same area on first fab, on second fab. We had 993 different types on the first one. After standardizing, after understanding how everything was gonna behave, we ended up installing same amount of devices, but just with 132 different types. So we saved almost 10 times for the field, for the VDC team, creating sheets, creating schedules, creating dimensions, figuring out if it's gonna work, if it's not gonna work. We save almost 10 times. One IKEA kit, one kit was gonna be installed over 300 times on one level. That's how much we ended up saving time. And innovation team, they saved 250 hours of sheet creation after just investing 8 hours. They came up with this nice dynamo that would save you time from creating schedules, views. So you just click on the group and you just click on the dynamo, 10 groups, and it creates, boom, 10 groups, 10 sheets, sorry, for those 10 IKEA kits automatically. You just need to kind of QA/QC it a little bit, tag it, but we saved a lot of time for sure for the client and for us.
Yeah, and I really like that last bullet as well, because there's so many times where you invest energy in development and then you don't know exactly what the ROI is, but seeing that 8 hours of development led to 250 hours of saving, it's just that clarity is invaluable. So the client and the GC liked what we were doing, which was great, so much so that they awarded us an additional electrical scope. Great news, of course, but that definitely brought some of its own challenges, right, Andres?
Absolutely, yeah. So previously on the telecom scope, we were just picking up on camera, just drive 1-incher, find the cable tray, and that was it. End of the game. Cameras, phones, and WAPs, and that was it. Right now, we were gonna have to connect a lot of conduits. The electrical scope is, I'm gonna say, like 10 times the amount of conduits. So if we were prefabbing and if we were saving time, it was gonna pay off 10 times better. Right there on the screen, you're seeing on the left is the deliverable we came up with. It's working up in colors. So each color is a bundle. The idea was to send bundles from the shop already almost like tighten up, and then just to install it as IKEA kits on the field. And then who broke those bundles? Why does those bundles break up there? Is the field who needs to decide those things. So on the daily meetings, on the daily sessions, we spent hours figuring out with the field team what's going to be easiest for them. So the conduits are broken there, not after the 90, not before the 90. They gotta be there because it's what works for the field. If they agree, there you go. I mean, you won. If they agree, they're gonna install what you sent. So that was it. Then on the right, this is literally a deliverable. On the left, we do like a big one scramble showing how many bundles we have. And then on the right, we break each bundle. And then the idea, of course, is to standardize. So on the right, we're breaking the green one that is racing from the middle. We have 2 types of conduits. So on that one, blue ones that are all the same. You just like, you do 10, you tie them up, and then you just send them to the field. And then the green ones that are 2 also exactly the same. So if you do this for each one of them, it's gonna be easy peasy. For the field, it's just gonna be like building up an IKEA table or something like that.
Yeah, and Andres, this is a mere example of multiple pages, but this also brought clarity, not only to our electricians in the field communicating with the modelers for how we need to break it up, but the intent for prefab is to make it a lot of times as large as possible to limit the amount of manpower in the field. So looking at a drawing similar to this is an ISO view, but visualize this as an electric room, and maybe just on the bottom left side, that whole wall needed to be left out. We needed the general contractor to leave that wall out because we needed this content to be brought in 3 weeks. You tell the general contractor, hey, you've got 8 electric rooms and need to leave a wall out. They're going to go, that doesn't meet our schedule. But this is a clarity of a drawing that I can have our GS and superintendents take to a meeting and go, guys, we only need 4 days in this room, but I need this wall out because this is the content that I'm going to be putting in this room. So getting not only the buy-in from our field, but this is a communication tool that isn't always seen in the modeled content, if that makes sense visually, for some of the other trades that you're coordinating with. So this is a useful tool for our field guys to use, as well as to roll back to our prefab that's coming out. How are we going to get this on site? How areas need to be left open for it to be brought in, and how is it going to be lifted? And a lot of conversations when you put this out of a model and onto a piece of paper where it can be looked at from the eyes of the installer, and bringing up questions of like you brought up, of how to break it up. So thank you. I can talk all day, like I said, but this is very useful.
No, it's great. It's all really valuable insights. And that piece of how you structure the deliverable can make the difference between, are you talking just about prefabrication, or is it then bleeding into pre-construction planning, which is what you're really talking about there, you know, access to buildings, physical space requirements. Can I conceptually break down this project and understand the reality of trying to execute on it rather than it just being not stick built? It's a nice transition, that. And so if anybody's watching this and they're considering trying time travel, or they might have an upcoming project where they're going to be having that sizable several month pre-construction planning phase, one thing I just want you to bear in mind is the original plan that we created for this was 4 years ago at this point, right? So back in 2021, there was no field, there was no shop yet. It needed to be pre-planned independently. But when we picked up this extra scope, that was last year. This is 2024. And now there's been hundreds of electricians on the site for a long time. You can't apply the same plan, right? So it's inevitably going to have to evolve. So there's no fit and forget. You've got to commit to that iteration of your strategy. Definitely establish it, but also be ready to create a new one as projects evolve, especially if you're looking at a project of this kind of duration.
Yeah.
So, oh, sorry, Jim. Go on.
No, go on. Go ahead. Continue on.
No, it's out. I was just going to say we appreciate you all sticking with us, and we just wanted to leave you with 3 key takeaways. The one for me personally is that pre-construction planning piece. Really early on, getting the right people involved, getting your Andreas, getting your Jim, establishing the strategy, and then making really early prefabrication decisions so that that pre-construction process can move really smoothly.
Yeah. Pre-construction and prefab, they don't sound well together. How is that possible? That's that time travel. Trying to prefab something that you're pre-construction. Yeah. But so having, I guess that key takeaway I'd like to say is that getting that buy-in from the field, and that through communication, but of what that strategy is, and holding the course. And through communicating and daily uploading that new strategies as they evolved, and then keeping it simple, both on the digital side, from the field, from the receivables for the field, as well as the hard, the physical side of it, the PDF side. Keeping it simple to understand is key. A lot of these guys that are getting this are passing it on to the field. They're not the ones installing, they're understanding it. But every time someone looks at a piece of paper, they have 5 questions. Well, that could get that. So having that drawing simple, broken in, like anybody would sit down with their kids at Christmas and open up an IKEA drawer and put it together in 10 minutes, right? Yeah. Anyway, at the end of the day, that communication and with the design team, E&G did a great job supporting this, but executing the plan and was key. So it was awesome.
Alrighty, and then my key takeaway will be design for change. I have 3 bullets for this one. So standardization, don't be afraid to invest time. This is how you prefab. Don't be afraid to invest time. Invest time understanding the project. The more time you invest, the better you're gonna be able to standardize. Understanding, know your restrictions, and then propose a standard solution that's gonna work for an overall, as an overall solution for all of the devices or whatever you're modeling or you're constructing. Second one, innovation. I always tell the guys, if you're doing a repetitive task on Revit, there's a shortcut for sure. You can cut corners on that one. You can save money, you can save time. Revit has a lot of tools. This is a huge toy. You can Dynamo, you can Python inside Dynamo, and now there's Evolve. So if you're doing something over and over and over, there's a Dynamo for it, and it's not hard. And last but not least, being built for the field. VDC team needs to work for the field. They cannot go in separate ways. They need to work for the field. So open wide communication channels and break the bottlenecks. Just make them work as one single team. Otherwise, they're just going to do whatever, and they're just going to do install whatever is easiest for them.
Absolutely. Really great points. Okay, I think it's time to get to some of the Q&A. Appreciate you throwing a few different questions in there. Let's take a look. What we got? Oh, okay, this is a good one. How did you keep track of other trades install for supports? I think who wants to, anybody want to take
Okay,
that one?
yeah.
Andres, you
So
got it?
yeah, yeah. So we had a tool which the client gave us, which is build dots. We could see almost on almost live. They would scan the site almost on a daily basis, so you were able to see if whatever you were gonna use as support was gonna be there. Also, we were meeting up with the field every single day, at least 5 minutes with all of the GFs. So we could just ask them, get some pictures from them. But long story short, there's some tools, like there's some tools that can help with that.
Mhm.
Plus communication with the team. Again, that's the win-win.
Excellent answer. Okay, we got a few of the good ones here actually. Okay, I think this one's for you, Jim.
Okay.
To what extent were you updating the digital models to what was worked on in the field? Due to the project size and the workers making changes in the field daily, how were you keeping up on so many areas changing so quickly? It's a really good
Sure,
question.
sure. Good question. We had an overview, I mentioned before, a PDF sessions drawing, which is basically an overview drawing of the site. And what comes to mind, it's been a little while ago, but what comes to mind how we resolved this is I got weekly feedback from the general foreman. They would actually mark on their own layer on that sessions of where they were at with their install. And we would put on, and I would put on an area in red that where they needed to stop because maybe, like I mentioned, an issue that was unresolved, a clash that we needed to address. But that communication was also verbal, brought up because we could pull it up in a meeting and talk about it, but they owed weekly an update of their install.
I also wanted to add digital models. I mean, until when we did update them, we're still updating them.
Yeah.
So everything changes. In order to wrap up a project like this, you need to sign off. And the idea is to match whatever was done on the field to whatever is on the model. So if stuff changes a lot, they're not gonna let you go. They're not gonna let you sign off. So I mean, as long as we can, we need to match stuff, maybe with markups, with red lines. But if you need to
Mhm.
scan, if you need to go further, we were doing it also. We were bringing stuff and we were using recap. We were bringing cloud models to the model so we could match whatever was done on the field. We're still doing it.
Mhm.
Again, excellent answers. Appreciate it, guys. Okay, I think we've got about 1 minute left, so I'll just do one more question. Compared to traditional construction methods, how do you categorize the implementation of prefab/fab? Do you see it as an evolution in the industry? And if so, why? That's quite a question. I think I'll take that one. Yes,
Okay.
I definitely see it as an evolution, but not a new one. I think the concept of prefabrication has been around a long time,
Yeah.
pre-construction planning. None of this is new. I think what we're trying to do as an industry is manage the evolution of project scale, project schedules being so aggressive, availability of materials, globalization, a lot of different territories where people are
Labor.
trying to create these projects. It, go back a certain number of years, you wouldn't have typically had a team in Oregon doing a project in Arizona digitally. So that kind of remote operations from a virtual perspective has definitely made things more complex. But yes, I would certainly say it's an evolution of the industry that's going to continue. I don't know if we'll ever get to complete modularization because the construction industry inherently just has too many different stakeholders with different incentives. But deeper and deeper on the prefabrication side, yeah, I see that as a trend that's not going away for sure.
Yeah.
I wish we
Well,
could answer that last one, but I don't think we have the time.
do you want to take a quick run at it, or have we not got time? Oh yes,
Nah,
yeah.
Yeah.
it's gonna
We
end
just
up
we just got the
anytime.
thumbs up. What
You can't
specific
Oh yeah, we got a
communication?
communicate.
thumbs up.
You're gonna
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
So, what specific communication practices do you believe engineering teams should adopt to significantly enhance delivery efficiency and reduce the incidence of rework?
So let me just say it from the VDC side. So I mean, you need to come up with someone, like some leader for areas. For example, you have like 10 modelers in one area. There needs to be someone who has like a little field experience, who knows what hardware to use, what hardware not to use, and then you need to create meetings amongst them and the field. That's the only way you're gonna be able to raise that efficiency. Otherwise, they're gonna go different paths. And maybe with time, by screwing up a few times, by reworking a few times, I believe that's it. Like get them to talk, get them to go along, and it'll pay off rather sooner than later.
Absolutely. And one of the things I would add specifically for this type of client environment, unfortunately, I think rework is inherent in the nature of the facility that you're making. So a semiconductor fabrication plant, they're going to have to be mindful of computer chip commercial demands at the time and adjust their capacity accordingly. So you really want to be partnering with people, and that's why the design for change methodology was so important to us, because working with clients like this, you're going to have to be ready for rework. There's no way to design it out, unfortunately. It's just a nature of that client environment, and it's not for everyone, you know. So I think that's more a selection of partners who are okay with that inevitable rework component. Well, I think that's all the time we've got. Thank you so much, Andres and Jim. Really appreciate you helping with this, and I think it's been a really good conversation. Thank you, everybody, for putting the questions in the chat, and hopefully you'll be experimenting with time travel soon, because it was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Later.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.